Some mothers leave behind more than just heartbreak. They leave behind chilling questions that no one has been able to answer. From media darlings to royalty, to a forest hiding unspeakable horrors, these cases shook Nigeria to its core and still haunt us today. Grab your seats because these aren't just stories, they are mysteries that demand to be heard. This is the top 5 unsolved murders in Nigeria. Bamise was a 22-year-old fashion designer and the last child of her parents, Joseph and Comfort. She had 9 older siblings. On February 26, 2022, after leaving work at Ajah area of Lagos State, Bamise boarded a bus rapid transit system at Chevron Lekki, heading to Oshodi on the Lagos mainland around 7:30 p.m. She had the intention of going to visit her elder brother's family to spend the weekend. After boarding the bus, the driver flirted with her and told her to sit at the back. At the time, she was the only passenger in the bus, and she observed that the interior was dark. She also noticed that at least 2 other male passengers entered the bus afterwards. After that, the driver did not pick more passengers, and there were no CCTV cameras in the bus. She immediately sent voice notes to her friend via WhatsApp, revealing her concerns. She also sent some video recordings of the bus interior with the bus plate number to her friend, who advised her to alight as soon as possible at the next bus stop. Afterwards, further attempts by her friends and relatives to contact her via phone calls were unsuccessful. Prior to this, one of her last recorded conversations with her friend was, "Please pray for me." After several failed attempts to communicate via phone, the last known sound heard after a caller picked her phone revealed her struggling with an unidentified man. The following day, she was reported missing. On March 7th, 2022, her lifeless body was discovered naked near the Carter Bridge on Lagos Island. An eyewitness stated that Bamise was still alive after she was thrown out of the BRT bus, but she couldn't be treated or rushed to the hospital before she died. There were conflicting reports as to whether her corpse was found whole or mutilated. The driver of the BRT was identified as Andrew Nines. After Bamise's disappearance was made public, he fled and went into hiding in the neighboring Ogun State. He was tracked down and arrested by the Department of State Security Operatives and handed over to the police for questioning and custody. He initially confessed to sexually assaulting Bamise and abandoning her, but he later changed his story, denying any involvement in her murder. He later claimed that his bus was hijacked by armed robbers, that is, the men who entered the car after Bamise, claiming that they had also kidnapped her at gunpoint. His claims were challenged by Bamise's relatives, friends and some Nigerians who suspected foul play. He was arrested and is still awaiting trial even till this day. She was born royalty. She became a tycoon, and in 1996 she was murdered in cold blood, a crime that remains unsolved to this day. Chief Esther Bisoye wasn't just a Nigerian businesswoman, she was a force. Born into the Egba royal family, with a grandfather who once ruled as Oba, Esther rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most successful and powerful women in Nigeria's business scene. She began her journey trading foodstuff by train between Zaria and Lagos, a young wife making smart moves in a man's world. By the 1950s, she was dealing with giants like the United African Company and Vono Industries, and by the 1960s, she was running a thriving mattress business on Lagos' bustling Broad Street. But she wasn't just a dealer, she became a maker. After a disagreement with her foreign business partners, Esther took a bold step. She built her own foam factory from scratch. Teju Industries was born, a testament to her ambition and fearless independence. But then, tragedy. In 1996, at 80 years old, Chief Esther, the Iyalode of Egbaland, a highly respected traditional title, was found murdered. The timing was suspicious. At the heart of her death were allegations swirling around the succession of the Obaship, the throne of Egbaland. Was it a coincidence or a calculated move to silence a woman with too much influence? To this day, her killers remain unknown, her case unsolved, and her story, a blend of brilliance, power and mystery, continues to echo through Nigeria's history. Till today, the question remained, who killed Chief Esther Bisoye? And will they ever be brought to justice? Sliding into number 3 is Eunice Olawale, a devoted preacher and mother of 7 who took her morning cry evangelism to Abuja streets. But before dawn on July 9, 2016, her own voice was cut short in a brutal ritual-like killing. Eunice Olawale was a Nigerian Christian female preacher who was murdered by suspected Muslim extremists in the early hours of July 9, 2016, while evangelizing in the federal capital city of Abuja. Eunice was born on July 23, 1974. She was a deaconess of the Divine Touch Parish of the Redeemed Christian Church of God and a mother of 7. She was an indigene of Ekiti State and had been married to her husband, Elisha Olawale, from Ondo State since 2000. She was described by her husband as hardworking, God-fearing, and supportive in sustaining the family. She was also described by others as a humble woman and a passionate preacher. Several days before her gruesome murder, she overheard nearby Muslims comment about her preaching that she should be chased away. She also overheard another conversation from a mosque behind her home, which implied that her preaching wasn't the truth about God. After she informed her husband about what she heard, he cautioned her to be careful. After those incidents, Eunice suspended her daily morning evangelism for about a week, after which she resumed. A Muslim cleric was said to have come to her house and requested food for his Islamic school. But after she stated that she didn't have any food to give him at that time, he left. As Eunice had done for several years, she left her home that unfaithful morning at 5 a.m. before dawn to evangelize, a practice that is usually referred to as morning cry in the streets of Abuja. On the 9th of July 2016, according to several media reports, Eunice was murdered between 5 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. Though accounts differ as to the exact manner she was murdered, several reports stated that she was beheaded and stabbed. Other sources stated that she was stabbed multiple times in the stomach and the leg before bleeding to death. People heard her screaming at about the time she was murdered. At around 6:30 to 7:30 a.m., her husband, Olawale, woke up from his bed to alarming calls from his children about comments made by some nearby footballers saying that a woman was killed while preaching and her lifeless body lay on the ground in a pool of blood. Immediately he heard the information, Olawale dialed his wife's phone to verify, but realized it had been switched off. Afterwards, Olawale was called to confirm his dead wife at the police station. There, he saw her lifeless body, her megaphone, Bible, and her mobile phone. The gruesome murder of Eunice sparked outrage on social media among Nigerians, and 6 suspects were arrested in connection to the murder. The Nigerian police was given 14 days ultimatum to undergo further investigations pertaining to her murder and bring the perpetrators to book, but unfortunately, her death remains unsolved. 6 suspects were arrested amid national outrage, yet to this day, no one has faced justice for her murder. The next story is quite unbelievable, but if you're still with me, then I want you to go ahead and subscribe because we've got more jaw-dropping African stories coming your way. The most chilling of all the stories, the Soka forest horror. Authorities bulldozed the site and replaced it with a school, but no powerful figure was ever charged. The screams of Soka Forest still echo and the real masterminds remain free. They called it the Ibadan Forest of Horror, but that name barely scratches the surface of what was found there. In March 2014, deep in the overgrown Soka forest on the outskirts of Ibadan, Nigeria, a group of motorcycle taxi riders went searching for a missing colleague. What they found was the stuff of nightmares. Behind the crumbling walls of an abandoned building lay 23 emaciated survivors, chained and barely alive. Scattered around them were decomposing bodies, severed limbs, and piles of blood-soaked clothing and personal items. This was no ordinary kidnapping then. This was a house of death, a place used for human trafficking and possibly ritual sacrifice. Locals had been whispering about it for years. They had been whispering about strange disappearances, but no one expected this. No one expected a secret prison of pain operating in plain sight. What's worse, the whispers only grew louder, suggesting connections to powerful elites, politicians, and ritualists who, according to survivors, paid for human flesh to use in dark rites. Just 2 weeks later, another chilling site was discovered in nearby Abeokuta. Was this part of a network? A larger organized horror hidden beneath Nigeria's surface? To date, no one of real power has been held accountable. Allegedly, some of the kidnappers even posed as government officials during urban renewal projects to lure victims in. The building has since been demolished and replaced with a school, but no amount of concrete can bury the screams once heard in the Soka forest. The question still hangs in the air. Who was behind the Ibadan Forest of Horror, and how many more places like it remain undiscovered? If you'd like to find out more about this Soka Forest of Horror, I've done a full video about it and how it was discovered. I'll link that somewhere in this video. She lit up the airwaves, a rising star, a beloved voice, but one bus ride home would silence her forever. Her killers were never caught. Her story, like many others, faded from the headlines. Born on the 8th of June 1980, Ifeoma was popularly known to most simply as Iphie. She was born to a Ghanaian father and a Nigerian mother. This made her a Ghanaian Nigerian. She was raised and educated in Nigeria and attended Abia State University, from which she graduated with a degree in linguistics and communication. As a media personality, writer and public speaker, Ifeoma worked with many radio and TV stations such as Rhythm 95.7 FM and Silverbird Television in Awka. She was also a 3-time host of the Miss Niger Delta beauty pageant. Iphie had gone to visit her parents at Aba in Abia State. She was on her way back to Port Harcourt where she worked when the bus she was traveling in was attacked by armed bandits. As the driver was driving, the gunmen opened fire on the vehicle. Iphie was hit by bullets and she died from her wounds. Those were the top 5 unsolved murders in Nigeria. Stories of talent, faith, royalty and pure horror that ended without justice. Which of these cases shook you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more deep dive true crime stories from Africa, smash that like button, subscribe and hit the bell notification. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time for another journey into stories about Africa. Until next time, keep living as your most authentic self.